Pastor Ed here with Daily Devotions for Thursday, April the 17th, 2025. It's, as we commonly call it in the Lutheran Church, Maundy Thursday. In some Christian traditions, it's referred to as Holy Thursday. The Maundy comes from the Latin mandatum, which means a mandate, which is where our word mandate comes from, or a commandment, a law. Because in the Gospel of John, which interestingly enough, the Matthew, Mark, and Luke emphasize the Last Supper. In John's Gospel, it's the foot washing. And after the foot washing, Jesus said to them in John 13:34, I give you a new commandment, that you love one another just as I have loved you. You also should love one another. Mandata, monde, a commandment. But as I said, Matthew, Mark, and Luke emphasize the Last Supper. And reading in Luke, since we're in the year of Luke, picking up where we left off yesterday in chapter 22, beginning with the 7th verse. Then came the day of unleavened bread on which the Passover lamb had to be sacrificed. And so Jesus sent Peter and John, saying, Go and prepare the Passover meal for us that we may eat it. And they asked him, Where do you want us to make preparations for it? Listen, he said to them, When you have entered the city, a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him into the house that he enters, and say to the owner of the house, The teacher asks you, Where is the guest room where I may eat the Passover with my disciples? He will show you a large room upstairs already furnished. Make preparations for us there. And so they went and found everything as he had told them, and they prepared the Passover meal. When the hour came, he took his place at the table, and the apostles with him. And he said to them, I have eagerly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I tell you, I will not eat it until it is fulfilled in the kingdom of God. And then he took a cup. After giving thanks, he said, Take this and divide it among yourselves. For I tell you that from now on I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God comes. Then he took a loaf of bread. And when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to them, saying, This is my body which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. And he did the same with the cup after supper, saying, This cup that is poured out for you is the new covenant in my blood. That cup is historically often been referred to as the Grail, the Holy Grail. Some of you may remember Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. They're searching for the Holy Grail. They finally find it at the very end of the movie. There's the female character. I think she's in cahoots with the Germans. And interesting thing is, Indy has to try to decide which of the beautiful cups is the actual Holy Grail that Jesus used at the Last Supper. And there's golden ones and silver and bejeweled, but he picks the common one, which, as it turns out, is the correct one. But then there's like an earthquake and things start falling apart. The woman dives for it, and it falls down below, and she's reaching for it, and she wants that cup so badly that she reaches for it. Indy's trying to hold on to her, and she falls to her death. So he's still, it's still there within reach, and Indiana Jones is hanging there by one hand and reaching with the other hand as much as he could to grab the Grail. But he becomes entranced by the allure of the Grail. Again, all around him, all the rocks are falling, the ground is shaking, the temple is collapsing, but he's fixated on that Grail. And finally, the voice breaks through the spell. The voice of his father says, Indiana, let it go. And he finally does let it go. It's not about the cup. It's not about the Grail. Leonardo da Vinci once painted the Last Supper scene on a dining room wall in Milan. And as a visitor stood viewing the finished work, he commented on the realism of several goblets or cups on the table, exclaiming that they were so real that he felt as he could reach out and pick them up. And upon hearing these words, Da Vinci quickly grabbed a brush and painted out the goblets, completely painted them out. And pointing to Jesus, he said, It's his face that I want you to see. We want to focus on Jesus. Jesus in the Last Supper, on that day that we call Maundy Thursday, shared a Passover meal with his disciples right before his betrayal and his arrest and ultimately his death. And in that moment, Jesus changed the meaning of that supper, that ancient supper that had been celebrated annually for centuries since the time of the Exodus. He changed it, the meaning from a reminder of that escape from slavery in Egypt to a reminder of the sacrifice that he was making, that he was the sacrificial lamb, the sacrifice he made to bring freedom from the slavery of sin and to set us free from sin, death, and evil. The focus is on Jesus and what Jesus has done. And kind of as an aside, I remember the congregation I served in Ohio when I got there at Christmas time. They didn't have communion. There were two services, at least at the first service. They didn't have communion. What they did was, after the service was over, then the pastor would go into the library, and anybody who wanted to receive communion that night before they went home after the Christmas Eve service would come into the library to receive communion. And the first year that I was there, we had scheduled about it. I didn't make up the schedule. It was the schedule I inherited. There was about a half hour between the two services, the conclusion of one, the beginning of the music for the second one. And so I went into the library, and the people were lined up. They were lined up out into the hallway. I gave communion to everybody who wanted to receive it. And by the time I was done giving communion between the services, it was time for the second service to begin. And so we never did that again. We always had communion. I changed it right then and there, and we always had communion during the service. It struck me how much, even on Christmas, how much people understood that it was so important to receive and such an important part of their faith. And it all started with that Last Supper on the day we call Maundy Thursday. We'll be back with you again tomorrow. We'll talk a little bit about Good Friday. Until then, take care.